I'm Jamie Seeker, and this is What It Takes. Each episode, I sit down with real business owners to talk about their journey, the wins, the challenges, and everything in between. Let's dive in. Hey, welcome back to Business Owners Tell All. This is where we talk about what it takes. We go beyond the highlight reel. We get into the real stories of business owners who've built it, survived it, and learn what it really takes. So today's episode is fire. I'm excited about it. We're joined by Chaz Wolfe and Jake Isaacs, the powerhouse duo behind Gathering the Kings, a Kansas City-based peer-to-peer mastermind for high-performing entrepreneurs who want to win in both business and in life. Chaz is a serial entrepreneur who became a multimillionaire by 32 with a portfolio spanning franchising, you've got construction, real estate, and more. He's a high energy visionary. He's a systems expert and host of the top-ranked Gathering the Kings podcast. Jake is the man behind the curtain. He's the integrator, the operator, the team builder, the guy I identify with the most, but I'm learning how to be more of the Chaz in my business. So the two of them make a great duo with over two decades of leadership and operational experience. Jake is known for bringing structure to chaos and helping businesses scale with clarity and with empathy. And together, they're building more than companies. They're building legacies. And today we're zeroing in on a topic that every business owner eventually faces, and we're kind of going to focus in that HR and people strategy area. Because let's be real, your team can either scale you or sink you. So buckle in. This one's all about what it takes to build a team that can win without you. So that's the key. So welcome to the show, guys.
Whoop, whoop. What an introduction. Hey, yo.
Yeah. Feels special.
Hey, we try, but you've done all the work. I'm just talking about it, and introducing you, I think, is my pleasure. So let's jump into it and start with Gathering the Kings. What is that?
Yeah, well, I think you did a great job of introducing that as a peer-to-peer mastermind that is helping entrepreneurs and families win in all areas or live the exceptional life, as we say. And so our mission is really just to do exactly that, help people scale their profit, work less, win at home.
That's great. That's great. And how did you two connect?
This was a long time ago, almost 20 years ago, actually, we met originally. And Jake never admits this, but we met inside of an MLM back in the Amway days. If you remember.
Hey, we're dating. We're dating each other there. I do know what that is. Yes.
Okay, good. And so I was actually introduced to Jake because Jake was a stud muffin in that business. And I was a newbie, and we got introduced, and we've been buddies ever since. We're just back and forth. We've lived different seasons of life, different sections of the country, but always just kind of stayed tied to each other through the years. And when GTK became a thing, I knew exactly who could help me build it to what it needed to be. And I immediately started, just dropping the hints and beginning the poaching process of bringing Jake on, and eventually it wasn't just bringing him on. It was really forming a partnership that allowed both of us to become all we're meant to be and help other people become who they're meant to be.
Oh, that's great. Well, let's start with what people don't see. So I was talking about how HR and people strategy is really our focus. And I think that was an appropriate thing, just getting to know you guys and how you approach business and people. And I just wanted to talk about maybe some early HR struggles that you guys faced while building your first few businesses.
Yeah, the serial integrator can jump in on this one.
Yeah. Something that I tell young managers all the time, Jamie, is you can read books, you can listen to podcasts, you can go to seminars, but until you start actually having tough conversations out in the wild across the desk from employees, it's hard to manage people. And it's hard to know what to say and how to respond to how they interact with you. And so my number one suggestion for a new manager is just start having hard conversations. Don't shy away from holding the line of expectations, making sure that you're helping people grow in their careers and understanding what someone wants out of their job, because it's not all the same. Some people are showing up for a paycheck and some people are showing up for an opportunity to grow in other aspects of their life. And so just be curious enough to ask good questions of your team.
Yeah,
That's
I think.
really good. And I think that's a good starting point too, asking big questions. And Jake or Chaz, I think you were going to add something to that, but you've both built and led multiple teams. So Chaz, what's the biggest mistake you see entrepreneurs making when hiring early on?
Yeah, that's what I was going to add. I was going to add some specificity there to us specifically, and I think that every business owner goes through stages, and I don't have them like identified one, two, three, four, type of thing. But I think early on, most entrepreneurs try to do too much themselves, right? They wear too many hats. They don't know how to delegate. It's scary to hire. You're providing for another person and their family, and it makes the business real because before that, when it's just you, like it's there's freedom there, but it's all on you, and it's not scary, right? And so I think that's probably the first mistake. But what I was going to say to add on to Jake, that probably not the mistake that we made, but one of the things that I like clearly saw as we transitioned with Gathering the Kings and grew, is that you go from hiring generalists to specialists.
Yeah.
And you have to know when to do that because early on, I just needed people that I trusted, right? And so Jake and I are hiring a couple people, but each person isn't in a specific role. Sure, they had a role, but then they would also do a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this. And I think that's how most business owners operate until a certain point where now it's like, okay, actually what we need is clarity. And so in order to have clarity, you have to have KPIs and you have to be accountable to a certain job description and a certain result. And that is more of a specialist rather than just like, we just need kind of like pick up the pieces and run because we're all like heading that direction. Yeah, we still need to run and head in that direction, but now it's like more specified. It's more intentional. And so that during that kind of transition time, which for us was probably a year and a half or so ago, we were just noticing that it showed up to me as frustration, right? Because on the end, I'm a big results guy. And then, Jake is how do we get things clear and in the job descriptions and KPIs? And I'm just like, dude, I just want results, right? Like, I don't care what you say on the front end, just give me results. And when those two things don't match up, we had to go, okay, well, maybe it's the individual, maybe it's the actual role, maybe we need to do a better job, maybe we need different people or whatever. And so we start moving people around and hiring different people and specializing each individual role so that we can get better results.
I love that. And you mentioned clarity. I think that's a really big part of it. So Jake, as the designated integrator, what does operational clarity actually look like when it comes to team structure and HR?
Yeah, I think first of all, it's making sure that everyone understands what the reporting up and down looks like. So who's holding who accountable, where people go if they have questions, because inevitably someone's going to walk in and not know what to do, and they need to know where to go in order to get those answers. I believe, Jamie, that people don't show up to their job and try to suck at it. They suck at it because they don't know what to do. It hasn't been explained well to them. And so by making sure that people know exactly who they report to, where they go for questions, what resources are available to them, that's where you start eliminating some of those questions and frustrations that cause people to leave.
I think that's really good. And you talked a lot about accountability because I think that's a big part of it. But how do you balance like empathy and accountability when it comes to leading a team? Like what systems do you support that? Because you kind of listed, some of these things that you need to have in clarity, which I think is really, really good and necessary. But I think one of the things that is blaringly obvious in coming in and seeing what you guys do is that the people part of it is also part of the system. So how do your systems support that?
I'm going to let Jake answer this from the technical perspective of empathy. I'm going to give you the rough answer first.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay. And so when I think of empathy, especially in like a people environment, I'm already thinking of Jake's answer, and he's going to give you some really good stuff. What comes more natural to me is why don't we just be super honest and authentic about what we're trying to do here, so that way we can just go get it done. And when I think about empathy, I don't necessarily think about being soft or like, sitting around the campfire singing Kumbaya, although there are elements of working with people to the best, right? And we use the predictive index and like we're specialists and we like people and we want to know how to deliver information, and Jake's going to give you the technical answers. But for me, it's about like, let's just be honest here. Let's just be raw and let's just get results. And I've probably already painted myself to your listeners as like this, geez, like super intense. You're only driven by results and money. And no, that's not the case. But as a visionary typically is, it's like, look, here's where we're headed. And that's oftentimes only the visionary can see. The visionary can't see the in-between moments along the way a lot of times. And so they're so obsessed with the end result that it feels like that's all that they care about. But empathy to me is like, let's just be honest and clear about what this end result is so that we can just freaking run. And that's me being kind, is being real clear up front about what I see in the future. So that way we can all run together at the same pace.
Yeah, I say that all the time. Sometimes the most loving thing I can do is be honest with you. And sometimes honesty and transparency doesn't feel like
Yeah.
loving, or
Yeah.
accountability. It sounds like, negativity or attack. And you're like,
Right.
whoa, like I didn't see any negative, I didn't see that as negative at all. I thought that was very loving to tell you what's really going on. And I think just to
Right.
take that a step further, I never really viewed empathy as like this, kumbaya touchy-feely word. It's just more of like understanding is more
Sure.
the word that
Yep.
I kind of use as I have an understanding of the other point of view
Exactly.
when I'm, and so my actions kind of reflect that. And I think that's how I see empathy. But Jake, come on, bring it home with all the technical systems that you've put in place to account for all this stuff.
Yeah, just want to reiterate what Chaz said there because he says it all the time. Clarity is kind, right? And I think one of the most pervasive things that has happened over the course of the last couple of decades in this participation trophy society that we have raised this next generation of employees in is that they believe that they should be rewarded for lackluster performance. And unfortunately, when they get out into corporate America, that is just not the case. We have to have results. We have to be compensated for the work that we're bringing to an organization. So one of the conversations that I have right away with new employees when we bring them in is like, listen, I understand you have goals, dreams, and aspirations outside of this job. And if you won the lottery tomorrow, chances are you're not coming in. So like, what are those things that motivate you? What excites you? What gets you out of bed? And having a deeper understanding of the motivation that an employee has gives me the ability to reference those in some of those tough, empathetic type conversations. Like, hey, Jim, you said that you were really interested in being able to go to night school and you were using this job in order to pay for tuition. But if you keep showing up late, you're not going to have a job to pay for that tuition. And I want to make sure that we are creating an environment where you can go and get that education that you really want. And so I need you to be here on time because that's the expectation. And being able to have those conversations in a manner that's relatable to what motivates the individual employee is the difference between someone who is a tyrant at their job and someone who cares about their employees.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you guys are really big on building culture. And you talk about that with Gathering the Kings. And I'm just curious, what's your approach to building culture across multiple locations or like remote teams, things like that?
Yeah, I think it's about authenticity. Just going back to that word, kind of just generally, because the culture that I'm going to build is going to be different than yours, and that doesn't necessarily mean that mine is better than yours or yours is better than mine. It's going to be in the shadow of who I am, right? It's an extension of who the visionary is most times, and so I think that I had a guy on my podcast, I don't know, 2.5 years or so ago. Jake probably remembers his name much better at that than I am, but he told a story about how he helped an organization redo a job description because they were hiring this professional role, whatever it was, I can't remember. And then when they hired this person, they would come in to this, like, it was a professional environment, but very much like think CPA inside of then like a frat house. The culture of the business was very bro-ish and we're having fun and all that was fine. But the person that was being brought in based on this really professional job description did not fit this frat house mentality. Not that the frat house environment or culture was the problem. It was that they weren't being authentic about it up front. And so that's, to me, it's like whatever the culture is. If the culture is fast, or if the culture is slow, if the culture is about perfectionism, if the culture is about caring, like whatever, right? Like whatever you value, that your values are part of the culture. Great. And then let's just be authentic to that when we bring people in. So that way, it's not like a wool over the eyes type of scenario. You know what I mean?
I love that. And Chaz, you talk a lot about mindset too. And I think that what you're saying about culture reflecting, the visionary is a really big part of that. So how do you evaluate your mindset fit when hiring and promoting internally as well?
Yeah. Well, I think that's the game for every visionary always is, I'm the bottleneck 100%. And then so if I'm the bottleneck, is that physically because I'm doing the job like we talked about earlier, wearing too many hats, or is that the way that I think? Is that my mindset, my current ability to see beyond this current situation or whatever the deal is? And so, yeah, I think that that's a huge deal. I don't know if a business owner is really able to like articulate that in the moment of going, okay, I'm going to hire this person. How does my mindset like get injected into this job description and hiring process and onboarding process? Maybe a little bit if they've thought about it and had some intentionality. I think, excuse me, probably the takeaway for your listener is just simply make sure that as the business owner that you don't stop growing ever, period. It cannot be a game that you ever slow down. There has to be personal development on the calendar, during the day, during the night, in the ear on the way to work or at the gym. Like it's got to be books. It's got to be seminars. Like that is the game that I recognize is that if I have to always level up in, because that's the shadow is being cast from me, right? And so people are never going to rise to anything beyond the leader. And so yeah, I think that's the takeaway is just your mindset can't ever be the game that you stop playing.
I love that. Your people are never going to rise above the leader. I think that's a
Yeah.
really, really good point, and it helps you be accountable to yourself as well. And gathering the kings helps business owners scale to that point. So, what's the number one piece of HR advice that you give founders that are maybe stuck in the weeds or into that day to day?
Yeah, I'm going to answer something quickly, and then I want Jake to kind of circle back here. But just based off that note, what I just said, as far as you're never like your team is never going to get past you, even if I go in and hire A players, which I'm going to let Jake let that be the answer because that's the answer. The answer is get a better team, right?
For sure,
It's always
for sure.
get a better team. But if the individual, the owner, the leader is hiring A players, guess what they're going to realize real quick is that I'm not being led by an A player or someone who cares about
Mm,
mindset or growth, and they aren't going to last. Promise, guaranteed. And so
yeah.
the answer is go hire better people, but it's tied to what we were just talking about, which is as the leader, you have to create an environment or be someone who can lead A players.
Oh, that's
Because
good.
the answer is A players. And so Jake, take it from there as far as like the actual development of a team through A players.
Yeah. Well, on a personal note, as someone who has been the number two in a lot of organizations, that has repeatedly been the thing that has caused me to leave, is because the person that was leading me stopped growing, stopped investing in themselves, and I started outpacing them. And so it was no longer fun to be a part of that organization for me anymore. And so when you're developing this team or this system of A players around you, you know, inevitably A players are going to cost more. And there's this feeling that like, I can't afford to hire an A player, so I'll hire two C players because the budget can manage that. And really, A players pay for themselves,
Yeah.
right? Someone that can come in and with lots of competency do their job, they're going to 15 or 20x the performance of a C player if you just get out of their way and let them perform. The problem is most entrepreneurs aren't truly willing to let go of some of the reins and responsibilities that an A player needs in order to come in and thrive. And so they have this spider monkey mentality where they keep their hand on that piece of fruit, unwilling to let go of it. And really the only thing that the business needs to grow is for them to let go and trust other people to come in and do the work.
Yeah, that's so good, you guys. And I think that it's like an age-old lesson that our parents started teaching us when we were young, like don't get in with the wrong crowd. Like if, but it's true. You are who you surround yourself with. And in
100%.
business, and if you're the leader, you want to hire people around you that are going to make you better ultimately because you're the one that's going to lead them. And they want to be led. They want to be led by people who are going to challenge them and grow them. And so all the things that we kind of talked about with accountability and clarity, and I mean, those are just systems that we put in place to help them. But at the end of the day, you're driving that growth, that continuous growth mindset and that continuous, like how that looks in your workplace. So that's really good. And you guys, we always ask one question to all of our podcast guests, and I am interested to hear from each of you on what it takes to be a business owner, to sit in that leadership seat, to be creating these kind of systems and to building culture in your workplace and scaling businesses, all of the things that you guys work on all the time. What does it take, in your opinion?
Yeah, I love that you've positioned this for both of us because we're going to have probably two different answers.
Absolutely. I expect it.
Um, I mean, the thing that comes to my mind, and you told me at the beginning I could be authentic, so I'm going to just say cojones.
That's it. That's
That
good.
doesn't mean that my lady listeners can't be business owners. It just means that you've got to have you've got to have some gumption. You got to have some willing to just put your neck out there. I remember I'm 24 years old. I'm in the process of excuse me, buying my first business. And I'm talking with my best bud at that time. And he's like, the business was a franchise, a fruit franchise. And he was like, what if people stop buying this novelty product? And I sat and I thought about it for a second. I said, I guess I would get a sales job. I go back to sales because that's where I came from. I'd pay off the loan. And then I looked at him dead in the eyes and I said, and then I'd do it again. Like that evil, like,
Yeah.
you know,
Insert evil laugh here.
yeah, totally. And I think that's what I mean by cojones. Like you got to have that, like, I don't really care. I care, of course. But at the end of the day, I'm going to bet on me every single time because guess what I'm going to do as I'm going to get it done. And I think that that's what it takes to be a successful business owner.
Oh, that's great. Jake.
Uh, my answer is faith. It takes belief. The cojones thing that Chaz is talking about definitely plays into that. But so often I see business owners that self-sabotage because they don't want to train someone to do the job because they're afraid that they're going to go off and do it on their own. And so you've got to have belief and faith that you're building a system that the market wants, that your way of doing it is unique, your ability to sell it is unique, and that the people that you're going to hire are going to come in and thrive in a system that you have created. And so the people that don't do well try to keep it all tight and they're not willing to give anything away.
Oh, that's great. What a great combo, guys. Big thanks to Chaz and Jake for pulling back the curtain a little bit on what it really takes to lead with fire and build with precision. Whether you're running a lean team of three or leading a national operation, I think there was gold in there really for everyone. Leaders, how you're building, every step of the way. So I feel like if this is something that's resonating with you guys as listeners, Chaz, how can people find you and Gathering the Kings and what you're talking about in this group that are helping people to stay on this mindset and
Yeah.
pour into their businesses like that?
Yeah, I mean, if they're listening right now, they're business owners and they want to be around other business owners that think like Jake and I. That's why they would want to come after us. So gatheringthekings.com talks about our peer-to-peer mastermind. It also talks about our family mastermind. I mentioned at the beginning that we're helping entrepreneurs and families. And so we do a big vacation in the summer times. I know that this will probably be airing shortly before the summer. And so they can go to gatheringthekings.com, learn more about our family mastermind. And our focus there is not just, again, to help them scale the business. We want to do that, but we also want to help them use their time in a way that helps build a legacy. And oftentimes that the focus is their family and their marriage and their kids and all the things that come along with the personal development as well. So they can check us out there at gatheringthekings.com.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. And that's a wrap on today's episode of Business Owners Tell All. We've been talking about what it takes. Make sure to follow Gathering the Kings and check out Chaz and Jake and see what they're building there. We'll drop all their links in the show notes as well. So until next time, keep building, keep learning, and keep doing what it takes. Would you or someone you know like to be featured on this podcast? Our applications are now open. Apply today at seekersolution.com and click on the podcast link to get started.